I'm gonna talk about dreams. Dreams are essential to enjoy a happy life, but we tend to postpone them. We fill our days with tasks and meaningless activities and don't leave time to plan for a better life. Dreaming was easy when I was a child, but I forgot how to do it as I grew up. As an adult, I assumed my busy daily life was all I could get. I lost my sense of wonder and became more rational and logical. My life was predictable, traditional, and normal. I forgot about my dreams, and worst, I erased the possibility of using the power of fantasy and imagination from my mind. If I went back in time, I would try to remember what I wanted to become as a child. I evoked those silly memories where everything was possible. A vital part of my childhood was using my imagination to picture myself living in a perfect world. I spent time creating spaces in nature where I lived a secret life with my dolls and imaginary friends. I cooked with flowers and mud and built miniature houses with the sticks and straw for the tiny fairies who flutter around the mossy trunks where they lived. I had a castle inside a bamboo forest and talked to the invisible gnomes hidden under colorful fungi. During my teen years, I wanted to travel to remote places my ancestors on my mom's side did. I knew some of them had taken their cameras to photograph the world as soon as photography was invented. I also heard a surprising story about my grandma Sophia. She was born at the turn of the 20th century, and like most women of her generation, she had always been a housewife and a good mother. In the 1960s, when she was already a grandmother, she had a dream. She wanted to go to Egypt. I can imagine how crazy that idea might have been. My grandma had never traveled abroad, not even close to her home in Colombia. Besides, women in those days only traveled with their husbands. My grandfather didn't have the money to pay for that extravagant trip, and he was afraid of flying. But Sophia didn't give up. They bought the lottery, and as crazy as it sounds, they won. And she got the money to fly and my grandfather's permission to fulfill her dream. A few years later, she developed Alzheimer's and couldn't remember much about that trip. Still, I was very young, but I remember she had a tiny black and white picture of herself riding a camel in front of the pyramids. That fading image was enough for me to spark the desire to do something similar someday. Many years later, I needed a big push to remember. I realized that none of my early fantasies had become real, but I still could change my fate and create new goals. It was still possible to embrace what I really wanted. As most people do, I was postponing what was more important to me. How could I find the capacity to dream again if my to-do list never ended? Well, my life forced me to stop and find a new path. It was March 2020, and during the first weeks of the pandemic, I spent much of my time walking in the neighborhood parks. The warm breeze filled the forest. The flowers bloomed. The bees buzzed, and the birds sung. I enjoyed those moments intensively, and as I spent more time in contact with nature, my imagination and creativity bloomed. I discovered new little treasures every day. The dewdrops flickering in the morning grass. The tiny seeds sprouting. The busy squirrels running up and down the forest, and a woodpecker hammering on the rough bark of an old oak. I felt the sweet aroma of the wet soil after the rain. And the soft breeze passing through the tall grasses. Little by little, I started to see the world with awe and wonder, and I let my imagination fly free. Those walks made me feel alive and guided me to dream, create, and generate new ideas. They only emerged as I opened a space for them to flourish. Once they were clear, I had to visualize them in the real world. The visualization I built from my dreams must be careful, detailed, and concrete, so that my mind perceives these mental images as real and feasible experiences. Imagining a better life helps and refreshes me when I find myself in a difficult moment and gives me the strength to fight for it. But these dreams should not remain floating in an unreal world. They are the energy that drives me to turn them into a plan. The next step was putting them into action. It required a lot of willpower and discipline. I knew my dreams would only be real if I fought for them. My secret was simple. I understood I was the only one responsible for keeping my dreams alive, and I knew nobody was coming to offer me a perfect future. My life is as complex as everybody else's. I have lived through happiness and pain. I am also aware of my age, and I know that the time that remains in front of me is limited. I will need to adjust my dreams as I get older, but I will not give up on them. I need to be creative, and when my ideas don't work, I still have a reserve of small steps to help me out while I reach for those hard to achieve bigger dreams. While walking among trees, I sit quietly under the canopy to enjoy the forest magic. I still look for giant monsters hidden in the rocks. Or flying dragons crossing the pink clouds before dawn. I enjoy the full moon racing behind the mountains and the shooting stars on the darkest nights. Nature makes me feel alive and reminds me that there will always be something waiting for me to enjoy it.